If you ask any old timers about their life experiences, they would go on and on about their adventures and exploits since their childhood. Everyone earns for such a memorable life. But what made their childhood so memorable? If you ask me, I'd say it is the spirit to challenge and explore the unknowns. And life has a way to wane them over time. In my opinion, life is both long and short. It is long enough to let us experience a bit of everything, but too short that it will not let us live life the way we want to. In this short, long lifespan, time is not an asset we can afford to waste, but we waste it anyway. I'm talking about the times when we lose our way in life, lose the passion which drives us towards our goals, the times when we need support, but no helping hand would reach us. At such times, instead of waiting for help, I've been writing reminders to myself so that I can be back on track after reading them, hopefully. These reminders may come just as helpful to others when they need to take a look back at life. So, write and share my ideology. As such, I have always tried to make my writings as interesting as possible, but I want to do the opposite now. Although I'm not very good at it, I will try to be a bit boring. After listening to the story, you will find my reason in trying to do so. My boring story took its first breath when my colleagues planned to go sightseeing. It was back in the fiery month of May 2018. We bunch had been sent to Tatanagar on work. We were lucky enough to have a few days off, but a couple of enthusiasts had to disturb my peace and searched for viable sightseeing options. They asked around for a suitable destination and decided on a hiking trip to an ancient temple. They made a brief plan on how to proceed after knowing just enough information on how to reach there, trek, pay respects to God, and come back. They came to me asking if I am interested in going with them. Since almost everyone is going, and I am interested as well, despite my complaining, I didn't have a reason to say no. Including me, 7 men and 6 women had committed to do the adventure. As this was someone's idea, I wasn't able to dish out the exact specifics of the journey from my colleagues. All I could get was we hired 2 auto rickshaws, they will take us to the foot of the hill, we will walk up the hill for 2 hours or so, visit the ancient temple of Lord Shiva, come back, and we can enjoy the nature while we are at it. That information was too vague for me. I wanted to know the distance we had to cover, if there would be anything to eat along the way, or once we reach the top, the total cost of the trip, the time we can reach back to our quarters. These were my concerns, but they repeated the same brief version of the trip. I immediately understood that these people are a bunch of muscle headed green hats with adventure fuel running them. I have some experience in hill climbing and am aware of the perils along the journey, so I couldn't help but suggest a few things. Since it is summer and the temperatures can go up to 48 degrees centigrade, it is better to leave as early as possible, say 5:30 am. It is necessary to carry at least 2 water bottles per head. We will have to bring some snacks as well, were the important ones I've mentioned. They nodded to everything and we were all set. As my luck would have it, that night I had a severe headache and felt nauseous. I couldn't eat properly, neither had a good sleep. On the destined day, I woke up at almost 6 o'clock. I felt better as my headache and the nauseous feeling subsided, but I was late, so I couldn't help but entertain the thought of dropping out. My colleagues were giving me call after call. After thinking for a bit, I've made up my mind to go with the team since I may not get another chance to go visit the ancient temple of Lord Shiva. Also, they said that it is just a 2 hour walk and walking is not something I back down from. Moreover, I told them that I would go with them and I hate to go back on my word. So I brushed my teeth in a jiffy, freshened up a little, grabbed my backpack along with the water bottles, and met my colleagues. I was the last person to join the team. Unlike me, who looked like someone ready to sleep, my colleagues were in top notch condition. But then I saw a couple of guys wearing jeans pants. I thought to myself, okay, I seem to have forgotten to mention an important tip. Well, who am I to advise? I am wearing sandals instead of shoes. RIP thighs. Since it was getting late, we boarded the auto rickshaws and started our journey. It is then I noticed something. Except for me, none of the guys had their backpacks on, nor were they bringing their water. At least, the girls are carrying their ever reliant handbags. But I see no signs of water bottles or the snacks I had mentioned. I couldn't help but ask my colleagues about it. They said that they hadn't had enough time to get them, but they planned to buy them on the way. Along the way, none of the shops were open to business. After all, it was around 6:30 a.m. Soon, we were approaching the junction where we had to cut away from the main road to a desolate route. We had lucked out that there were quite a few shops open to business, maybe because of the temple at the junction. There, we spread out and bought what we felt was necessary. I had bought some salted peanuts and biscuits. Also, in consideration to the rising temperature, I have bought 2 packets of lassi as well, just in case. While we are at it, my colleagues had puri for breakfast, the only available option in the vicinity. I didn't eat because I didn't want to stress my tummy with heavy food when it was getting better. Moreover, I felt that eating before hiking isn't a good decision. As good as everything may seem, in the hindsight, we were burning precious morning hours, and the sun was rapidly taking to the skies. After the short, long break, en route, we faced another hurdle. The path ahead was blocked because a company had acquired the plot. The drivers were kind and considerate that they looked around, found a bypass, and took us to the foot of the hill. Had they dropped us there, saying, "This is as far as we can take you," we would have suffered to find the correct path. They took us as far as they could, then they showed us the right path up the hill, even pointed out a flag on top of the hill. It is the flag hoisted on top of a temple. With our destination in sight, we said our thanks to them and started our hike at around 7:30 a.m. These days, the first thing we do on any occasion is to take our phone and capture that memory. We guys weren't any different, but I knew that we would be at it if left unchecked. Since it was getting hotter by the minute, I took a few pictures at our start point and moved ahead, beckoning the others to follow. I advised everyone to carry a stick so that we can beat around the bushes to scare any unfriendly friends. With the path in view and being well equipped with water, snacks, and experience, I made a resolve to myself that I have to reach the destination as soon as possible. So I dashed ahead while leaving my teammates to catch up to me. After all, if no one runs ahead, then the others wouldn't have enough motivation to move forward. Also, I was kind of afraid that the girls might want to go back after walking for a while. Along the way, I was pretty rowdy. I was shouting out to my slowpoke colleagues from far ahead. I took pictures of nature while video recording whatever caught my eye. I wanted to create a documentary of how our journey went so that I could show it to my family and friends later on. Mostly because I wanted to bask in their jealous gazes. The rest of the time, I plugged in my headset and walked ahead while listening to the music. Since I was walking the forefront, I was able to find a couple of misleading paths and had to walk back. After walking for a while, I waited for my team to catch up and walked together with them. My team noticed a couple of people walking down the hill and asked for directions. After giving directions, those people went on their way down. The path is good for a little distance, but then after it turned rocky, very rocky. If one observes a little, they can easily deduce that the path we were walking on is formed by rundown rainwater from up the hill. It would have made for an eye catching scenery if there was water running down the hill, but it turned out to be a nightmare as the more we ascended the hill, the bulkier the rocks turned out. I have a fast pair of legs, so my team lost me as I walked ahead. After walking for a while, I got wasted. This fact took me by surprise as we had hardly walked for an hour, and I know that my body is not as weak. I couldn't help but sit down to rest and have water. While I was resting, another guy caught up to me. After the short break, we started treading the path ahead. He kept on moving, but I couldn't keep up with him. I was sweating all over and was taking in large mouthfuls of air. To compensate for the sweat, I often drank small gulps of water even as I walked. However, it was not of much help, and I had to rest after walking for a short distance. Even my phone ran out of battery. I couldn't care less because there wasn't any network to begin with. The stick I had picked up at the start point helped me a lot to tread the rocky path, but it too didn't seem like it could take much more abuse. I couldn't help but ask myself, why and when did my body deteriorate to this condition? I wasn't happy about myself that I had to take a break for walking a short distance and even struggle to breathe properly. I sat down to think where it all went wrong. Then I figured out the issues with my journey. First, I haven't had proper food since the previous night and it was taking a massive toll on me. Secondly, it may be my wild speculation, but the oxygen levels could be getting lower as we walked up the hill. There is also the factor of humidity. The rising humidity in the air might have been making the oxygen scarce than usual. So, after figuring out my issues, I reformulated my strategy. I decided not to chase after the one ahead and have my own pace instead. I have walked at a pace that wasn't burdensome to my respiration. Sure enough, I was able to regulate my breath and walk for longer before taking a break. The moment of happiness came as the support I had picked up was about to give in. The flag which I had seen at the foot of the hill is now in my sight. Within a few steps, I was at the footsteps of the temple. The quick one was already there. It was the temple of Lord Ganesh. I sat down at the temple with bated breaths while sweating all over. The quick one and I paid our respects to Lord Ganesh and sat down by the temple. I had some lassi, shared some with the other guy, had some water, ate a few biscuits, and saved the rest. After waiting for a while, some of the others had caught up with us. Only four didn't catch up. The newcomers paid their respect to Lord Ganesh and sat down with us. We took some photos while having refreshments. We also bottomed our water resources. It was not like there was much to begin with. After all, some of the team hadn't bought water bottles when they had the chance to. Maybe they felt that it would be uncomfortable to carry or didn't feel the necessity. Whatever the reason, we were out of water. I can only say that I was disappointed because when I had shared the water I had on me, everyone took small gulps and passed it to the next one. Seeing their consumption, I had thought that I'd still have some water left, but the last guy had downed all of it and gave me the empty bottle. I vividly remember him giving me a sly smile before downing it all. I didn't complain since we just had to walk down the hill. At least, that was what I had thought. But my team broke it to me that we had to walk even further to reach our destination. It was around 9:45 am. I didn't want to dawdle anymore and wanted to reach our destination as soon as possible so we could return early, at least for the lunch hour. After all, I was on empty stomach. All I could do was pick up a strong bamboo stick and dash ahead with the only person competent enough to join me. It may have been the other way around though. The rest waited at the temple for the others to catch up. While walking ahead, the other guy had asked me, "Why did you give them your water? You should have saved it. See, we don't have any water now." I replied, "It's okay, man, let it be." In a short distance, we had come across someone chopping at bamboo. We asked him how far ahead to reach the temple. He said, "Very far. We have just passed by Lord Ganesha's temple." So I thought, how far can it be? It was then hell started for me. The only person with me has enough stamina to go up ahead without me. The rest are collective enough to walk in groups of twos or threes. I, on the other hand, was all alone. During my lonely walk, my condition got worse than before. Even my strategy wasn't helpful to keep me on my feet as the intervals in which I took a break decreased. After all, I had water to keep me afloat back then. But then, I didn't want to stop for the others to catch up. There wasn't anything they could do to help me anyway. If I had stopped, I'd only become a burden to them. If they managed to catch up to me, fine. But I don't want to let them catch up to me by sitting like a helpless duck. I still had the zeal to reach our destination ahead of them. So I persisted and walked ahead while taking short breaks. The one who had walked ahead of me was waiting for me to catch up. We started again after taking a short break. Even he was sweating buckets as the temperature got higher and the humidity was vexing. I couldn't help but curse cause there wasn't a bit of breeze. In the middle of a forest at that. The other guy couldn't take it anymore and took off his shirt. I could only chide him, saying, "Even though you would get a temporary relief by taking off your shirt, you would get dehydrated just as fast." He kept my reminder in mind, put his shirt back on, and walked ahead of me, as I had to take a break. Again. That hell of a guy was nowhere to be seen by the time I got back on my feet. After walking for a bit, I tried to shout for him, but he seemed to have walked far ahead that my voice couldn't reach. In my attempt to shout for him, sweat got into my mouth and I spat it away. My saliva was white like vanilla ice cream. I didn't understand what was happening, so I spat again and observed. After a few seconds, there was little wet left where I had spat. It turned out that my saliva turned into foam due to dehydration. I could only smack my head, keep my mouth shut, and walk. On the way, I couldn't help but wonder if we were taking the right path. Because when I saw up front, all I saw was a short rocky path ahead and the sky, like I was on the top of a hill. But our destination was nowhere in sight. The more I walked, there seemed to be even more to walk. It was like the path was stretching to make my journey longer. I wondered if we could reach the destination in the first place. The only thing which kept us moving along the path was the trash that was littered along the way. The trash served the purpose of hinting us that we were on the right path. In fact, I was not in a position to care about the path. All I cared for was water. That was the day when I looked up to the skies and wished for it to rain just to have a gulp of water. I even fantasized for a bottle of water to miraculously drop down from the skies. Whatever the means, I just wanted some water. To worsen things, the rocky path caused my sandals to slip and lose my balance. There were a couple of instances where I almost fell face first or backward on a rocky path at that. It would have been a disaster either way. I could only thank the support that I was carrying with me. At times, the stick itself got stuck between the gravel. The path was that bad. Add thirst on top of that, and the only thing one would get is despair. To move forward, I had to put my sandals in the bag for a while as they caught on to my ankles, both literally and figuratively. I wore them back after the path got a little better. While walking, I couldn't help but cuss. This is forest for God's sake. Couldn't there be a fruit or something to eat? Although I didn't see any fruit, I saw vine like branches extending to the treetops. It was when Master Beer's lessons came to mind, and I had actually tried to cut the vines in hope of getting some water. As disappointing as it gets, the vines were too strong and well developed. Neither was I strong enough, nor I carried any tools to cut it. I could only drop my fantasy and walk ahead. Now that I think back, there were a few worthy mentions which could have made a beautiful sight on a regular day, like the beautiful wildflowers which I had seen for the first time, leaves that were shed like flowers, the tenacious tree which was likely struck down by a lightning but still managed to live on and grow healthy. Moving forward, on a stretch of path, I saw some unknown fruit. Juicy, fleshy, red in color, the size of neem tree fruits. They were all along the path. In the state I was in, I couldn't help but brave myself to have that fruit, no matter how much my conscience was against it. After all, if I consumed the biscuits I had on me, I'd likely choke on them because of my dry throat. Like he says, no matter how small, it still gives life saving calories. With that in mind, I nibbled the fruit a little. It tasted sweet, so I nibbled a bit more. The flesh on top was so thin that my teeth sunk into its seed. God, it was bitter as hell. I could only spit it out, for it could be poisonous. Thankfully, I didn't swallow any of it. I was able to spit it all out, but at the cost of my precious foam. Cursing my bad luck, I plopped down with no one in sight. I couldn't even muster the energy to call for the one ahead. I continued walking, and further ahead, I heard my friend call for me. Even while walking to him, I had to take a few breaks. As I sat down, I smelled something sweet out of nowhere. I thought to myself, am I hallucinating now? It then suddenly struck me like lightning that I had saved a packet of lassi, the existence of which I completely forgot about. It so happened that I was too exhausted that I didn't even remove my backpack whenever I sat down. I had been leaning onto the rocks with my backpack as a cushion. So, at some point, the packet got a leak. Thankfully, it was not a big leak and had a fair amount of juice in it. But there was another issue. Being in the condition I am in, should I share it with the friend ahead or should I have the whole thing for myself? I said to myself that his position could be just as bad as mine. So I decided against having it for myself and walked up to him. He saw me and asked, Buddy, want water? I asked, Do you want lassi? I knew for sure that there wasn't any water source nearby. So I handed him the packet. He took out a bottle from behind a rock and said, I found this capped bottle. I drank some and it seems good. The only thing which went through my mind at that time is that water? What in the world is happening? I was completely astonished to say the least. Then I felt, thank God, I hadn't been selfish. If not, I would have been guilt ridden. He told me that he found the bottle lying on the ground, capped and full to the brim. The water looked clear on the top portion. On the bottom portion, there was transparent fungus like substance floating in the water. He had done the smell and taste test before I was at the scene. The final result? We deemed the water to be potable, only the top portion. So we had separated the top portion into an empty bottle. We drank the water, fully aware that it might lead to diarrhea or other health problems. We couldn't care less because once we are past this ordeal, we will be back to normal life. So, even if we end up being in trouble, we will be able to get the necessary remedy. It was a calculated risk, but we didn't dare to drink too much of it. We drank just enough to wet our parched throats and save the rest for the journey ahead. Just as we were about to resume, we heard someone shout out to us from below. They sounded close to us. We waited for them to catch up. A couple of guys showed up in a short while. The one who downed my water with a sly smile, and another guy. These two seemed to have walked ahead of the rest. I thought of giving them the water which I had put in my backpack, but I remembered the chiding of the fast guy for giving away my water. I was stuck between a rock and a hard place. Helpless, I turned to the one who found the bottle in the first place, secretly asking him if I should give them some water. He denied just as secretly. I could only sigh and curb my guilty conscience, saying it was not my water to give away in the first place. On top of that, if they fall sick, there is a chance that we would be blamed. So I kept my mouth shut. After the short break, we resumed our walk. It also happened to be the last leg of the rocky path. The quick one found human activity and told us to come up. We finally made it after going through a lot, but I was not in any position to enjoy it. I even sat down to rest, even though the destination is right in front of my eyes. I somehow mustered the energy to get up and dragged myself to the temple. I then slumped down on the footsteps of the temple. Although we had reached the vicinity of human activity, there weren't any houses or shops. We only saw what seemed like police quarters. All I could do was lay back on the footsteps and recuperate from my exhaustion, while the other guys went to check out the quarters to see if they could get any water. When I was waiting for them, I saw people going on their bikes. Our destination seems to have a roadway as well. It makes sense. After all, not everyone would want to walk up the hill. It didn't take long for the guys to return. They came back with the news that it is a restricted area. But the policemen didn't mind us using the well near the entrance of their quarters. I couldn't move an inch, so the guys took the empty bottles that I have been carrying in my backpack and brought some water for me. I didn't feel any happiness nor joy in getting the much needed water. I didn't feel any sense of achievement on successfully reaching the destination. I was just asking myself, was it worth it? Should I have dropped out when I had the chance? The rest of the team soon followed, but the head count was less by two. I inquired and found out that a girl had it too bad. She struggled for breath as she tried to keep up with us. So they sent her back with another girl accompanying her. The two sightseeing enthusiasts went back down with them, sent them off, and walked back. That was why they didn't catch up to us, even though we had spent quite a while at Lord Ganesha's temple. I could only laugh self depreciatingly at myself because I didn't even try to know how my team fared along the journey. After gathering, we all went to the well, washed off our sweat, and filled the empty bottles with water. I have to say, nature is magic. The well water was refreshingly cold, even in the scorching temperatures. I said refreshingly cold because the water was at just enough temperature that one would down a liter or two without a break. On our way back to the temple, we had spotted a mango tree that just bore fruits. We had picked up some that fell. Some of the guys tried to pluck the mangoes that were within the reach of their hands. Then we scooted back to the temple, paid our respects to Goddess Durga, and sat down at the steps. After a bit of discussion, the guys concluded that we still have to walk ahead to reach the destined place. But before anything else, we had an important task at hand to enjoy our exploits. The mangoes we had picked up were undeveloped. They were the size of eggs, or maybe smaller. Never had I imagined that I would associate the words sour and acid with tasty and satiating. That day was the first. I finally got the chance to consume the biscuits that I couldn't eat due to lack of water. One of the girls took out bread and jam. She applied jam to the bread and shared the slices with everyone. After finishing what we had on us, we took to the road as a team. It was a dirt road, unlike the rocky path, so we weren't troubled much. After walking for a kilometer or so, we finally reached our destination. It was one big rocky mountain. The first sight that greeted our eyes was the grand canopy of a banyan tree. But the first thing that assaulted our senses was the wind. There wasn't any wind when we had walked along the forest, neither at the goddess Durga's temple. It was all here. It was like we finally found the residents of winds that were just too lazy to move elsewhere. The wind was comforting even in the scorching sun. Just like the well water, it was magical. We sat down in the vicinity and enjoyed the company of the refreshing wind. The guys called for the drivers to come and pick us up. I breathed a sigh of relief after knowing that we don't have to walk down the hill. It was an issue that I didn't dare to think of. It came as something to be happy about for my tired body and mind. In the meantime, we can visit the temple of Lord Shiva. at last. I have to say, the temple was peculiar, far from the architecture we usually see. It looked like a cluster of large boulders to form one big mountain. The giant banyan tree was embedded into the mountain. Walls and steps seemed to have been built for ease of access without disturbing the temple's original layout. The temple has three levels. On climbing to the first level, we saw Lord Ram's temple. Paying our respects to Lord Ram, we moved on to the next level. The stairway to the next level was very narrow that only one person can walk comfortably through it. The other end of the stairs led us to an equally narrow cave. The cave itself was where the Shivalingam was residing in. Paying our respects, we were able to exit into broad steps which led us to the next level, Lord Hanuma's temple. After paying our respects to Lord Hanuma, we couldn't help but stay there because of the wind and the view, even though our feet were burning due to the blistering hot floor. Since I had described the ground level of the temple as the residence of winds, this place at the top seems to be their playground. The wind was forceful but soothing. Adding the picturesque view to the equation, we didn't want to move from there. It was all greenery as far as the eye can see, except for one direction. After a stretch of forest, we were able to see the distant cosmopolitan city we came from. Even though the sun was sky high and the temperatures were scorching, none of that affected me anymore. I just stood there, letting the wind carry away my resentment and anguish while soaking in the grandiose view around me. Whatever the questions and doubts that I have been holding but neglected were drifted away without letting me contemplate them. Is this called being peaceful in mind? By the time we were back to the ground level, our reliable rides were waiting for us. Our way back was a bit perilous because of the dirt road. It was slippery with tricky corners. There were no guardrails on the roadside, and it seemed like a long way down. But our drivers were skillful and drove safe. On the way back, I was struck by the news of emergency work. I had to meet some officials of the government. They wanted one tech guy from our team to explain relevant information. Being the temporary team leader, the necessary equipment was with me, so I had to shoulder the responsibility. En route, all I could do was to mentally prepare myself to work. RIP lunch. We reached our temporary dwelling by 4:30 pm. Despite being tired, I quickly took a shower, grabbed the necessary equipment, and went to the workplace. They held a meeting in a conference hall and made themselves familiar with the technological part of our work. The meeting went on for approximately 2 hours. After the meeting, in our casual banter about the day, they commended us for walking up the hill and dropped a piece of news that the forest is home for some Naxalites. I was a bit dumbfounded but regained my bearings as the topic quickly drifted on to some other. After the meeting had come to an end, I came out and had been greeted with a massive downpour. There weren't any clouds when I reached our quarters. So, in the middle of scorching summer, within the short span of our meeting, clouds gathered from who knows where. Like a miracle, it then started raining buckets. It wasn't a storm, it was the kind of rain that makes you want to step out and enjoy it. Although I didn't step out, I stood by the window and enjoyed the cool wind and wet drizzle that the wind carried to me. It rained so hard as if to wash away any remnant resentment within me due to the tiresome and traumatic day. I enjoyed it with content while it lasted. After all, I was the one who wished for it to rain, albeit for a gulp of water. But it turned out to be something much more meaningful to end the day. After going back to my room, I reminisced about what had happened that day. This journey, when I think about it, I couldn't help but relate it to my life. I found that my life, like everyone else's, started with a group of people like the team in my journey. During our lifetime, there may be people who would give us a ride for a portion of our journey, but the real journey starts when we get out of our ride and walk on our feet. Even though I had little information about the journey ahead, I thought I could pull it through because of my experiences and the confidence in my stamina. Isn't it what we do in our life? We have little information about what life truly is about, but we move ahead confidently with whatever preparations we deem sufficient to lead a happy and comfortable life. But no matter how well we prepare for the journey ahead, life would still find ways to smack the back of our head and give us nightmares in broad daylight. To overcome these challenges, we can only mentally resolve ourselves and persist until we reach our destination. Like how I made a resolve at the beginning of my journey to reach the destination. I understood that resolve and destination are the things that will keep us moving. The start of a new journey is always fun. We'd be energetic, enthusiastic, and full of drive. No obstacle seems big or unbreakable. But issues arise if we don't keep a note of our resources that keep us going. We are covering distance at a rapid pace, but at what cost? Can we reach our destination at the rate we are consuming our resources? When things get tough, rushing things will only make us even more exhausted. In the worst case scenario, we might have to turn back without reaching our destination. To prevent mishaps, we can only stop, take a break, reorganize, and strategize our plan to move forward. After all, everyone has their own pace in life. Rather than chasing after the ones ahead and falling apart midway, isn't it better to reach the destination even if we are a bit late? The support I had picked at the beginning of my journey. Don't we have something similar in our lives? Isn't it our family and friends who'd help us fend off unfriendly friends? It is they who support us when we are about to fall. Like any support, if we lean on it too much or abuse it, it may give in. I was able to discard the support stick I was carrying and find a better one. After all, it was just a stick. But family and friends cannot be discarded. As we move to greater heights, we can only strengthen the stick and the bonds that hold it together. If we abuse or discard the stick in our haste to reach the top, it won't be long before that we may fall without having a chance to grab onto something. Also, they say the higher we climb, the harder we fall. So, it will not be pretty. But do bear in mind, I am not suggesting that we carry a log. At times, we may have to be wary of the people we move with. We never know when we will chance upon people like the guy who finished my water. After finishing the water, his gaze was like, I finished it. What can you do about it? The sly look, mockery, or it was just my imagination. Whatever the case, it didn't sit well with me that he had finished the water I was saving. Some people may say it is okay to be greedy or grab the opportunity before it slips away. Maybe he was one of those persons. I can only say that it did cost him my friendship and my trust in return. It reflected on him the same day. We didn't share the water we lucked upon. The next day, when he was assigned work, he tried to trick me into helping him, but I was wary of him. So, I checked with the higher ups and rejected him without any reservation. I actually may have considered helping him if he had come clean, but he lost his chances. I guess by grabbing opportunities at the expense of others, we may lose something of more value. Along the journey of our life, sometimes everyone would be with us. Sometimes it would just be a single person. Most of the time, we are on our own. It is when life thrashes us to the point of becoming delusional, making us wish for things without putting in any effort. At such times, no strategy may seem to work, making us wonder if we would make it to the destination. Like when I ran out of water and tired to the point of crawling down. But I was too headstrong that I did not want to go back, no matter how much the path that I am treading is testing my limits. I did not want to let others catch up to me. They couldn't help me anyway. I may have dragged them down if I had let them catch up. Being a burden is something that I hate. I am too egotistical for that. I kept on moving, even if it was a few steps at a time. When things get tough, maybe being stubborn, competitive, headstrong, and unyielding is what we have to do to move forward in life. When we are in a fix, we wish we could lessen our burdens. Just like my friend who felt burdened by his shirt and tried to take it off. It may give temporary relief, but the results could be devastating. Who knows? It could be those burdens and responsibilities which were helping and nudging us to move forward to reach our destination, though discreetly. At times, our ankles may get caught by the things which were helpful to us. Yes, my sandals were comfortable for a part of my journey, but they weren't a good option for a part of my journey. So, I came out of my comfort zone. Only then I was able to move forward. In our life as well, it may be possible to move forward only when we draw a line between what is necessary and an accessory. The unknowns. They are mysterious and enticing. They strike us when we are truly in need. The devil within us tempts us to grab the chance even though our conscience is against it. If we give in and make a slight mistake, it may not be long before we regret our decision. We may even end up losing something precious to get out of the mess that we had stepped in. I thank that little red fruit for teaching me a valuable lesson. It is funny how we can get caught up in the moment and earn for something out of thin air or make decisions that we may regret. It is funny because we would neglect the things that we have on us that could actually help us from the predicament. Like how I forgot the packet of lassi I had on me while suffering along the way. As tough as life can get, like in my journey, it would give us pleasant surprises as well. Just like how my friend got a bottle of water. Had I stopped for miracles to happen, it would have never happened. I learned that if we persist on our path, miracles will surely happen when we need them the most. I couldn't help but lament about my foolishness when I was complacent that I made it to the top before the rest of the team. They were helping our friends in need while I was blindly bulldozing without a clue of what was happening. It is boggling my mind as to how judgmental we can get about people even without knowing what is happening with them. I had wished for it to rain for a gulp of water, but had it rained, our journey would have been hellish. Because walking on the dry path was tough enough. Imagine dirt sticking to footwear, slippery rocks, soaked clothes, and drenched baggage. Yeah, it would be way worse. So, what I had wished for was a foolish option. I was given the best option for the moment, but my earnest request wasn't turned down either. The only thing that I can associate with water on my journey is money in life. Like water, we splurge money when we have it in abundance. But either of these resources can choke us to the point of being delusional. Worse, if we do not manage them properly. When I had reached Lord Ganesha's temple, I thought it to be our destination. But it happened to be a stop, not the top. Durga Ma's temple was the same. The same happens with life as well. Schooling, college, graduation, job, goals. Every point seems to be top, but it was just a stop. Every corner is a new destination, but there is more to conquer. Had I stopped or turned back, I would have been no different from the things that were littered along the way and couldn't make it to the top. Like trash. At the end of the journey, I couldn't help but ask myself, what is a top and what is a stop? Was it all worth it? I'm just a regular person as anyone can be. I'm also just as entitled as anyone can be. Like anyone else, I want to add something more to my life. So, I started a journey to a destination that I thought could bring me joy. The journey was anything but pleasant. I ran, I walked, I crawled, but kept on moving till I took myself to the top. Top. It was the place where my view was broadened. It was the place that showed me a grand view of the world. It was a place that made my struggles meaningful. It was a place that made my mind peaceful. We had lucked out that every one of us made it safely to the destination. I was rattled quite a bit when I had learned that our trip could have gone terribly wrong. Thinking back, I was able to enjoy the view and the wind not because that I was able to reach the top or because I got the much needed water. It was because of the people that were there with me when I reached the top. A thought left ringing in my mind at the end of the day. What is the point of being on the top when we have no one to share that happiness with? Is being at the top the end of everything? No. Top is not a place that can be enjoyed forever. Only when I had returned to where I belonged, that instant marked the end of my journey. But the end only served as a new start because tomorrow is a new day and a new adventure altogether. Honestly, my trip was a normal one without much sense of adventure. We only had minor hiccups which we were able to overcome through persistence. To me, life feels the same, without many interesting things. I faced troubles that I was able to overcome in due course of time. After overcoming that little hurdle, it is just a routine life. But no matter how routine we feel our life to be, if we look back, was it really boring?